I'm Lyon Rich. I'm your presenter today. A little background about me. I've been in the Lions for 30 years, and I'm going to be the current treasurer for my own club. I've been district treasurer 3 times, so I hope you get a lot out of this. I'm also a practicing CPA, so you might have some tax questions later. Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations again for becoming treasurer of your club. I have something on here that I will use partially, not a lot. But anyway, now that you are treasurers, the first thing you need to do is go to the bank and change your signatories. You know, maybe you already know that, but some treasurers stay with the club for a long time, and normally we try to rotate the position. So if you're a first of all, how many administrative treasurer are here? And the rest of you are charities treasurers, or both? Oh, okay, I'll be talking about both, but there's a couple things that, well, okay, so your duties are going to be, first of all, recording, safeguarding, budgeting, and reporting. So the reporting part will go over when we go through the type of software that you might be using to record transactions. You'll be getting income and expenses, and those can be recorded in either QuickBooks or Quicken or Excel. Oftentimes I'd rather use Excel because I can see the entire sheet in front of me. Safeguarding the assets is one of your duties, and as you may know, you have a fiduciary and legal responsibility to the club. A lot of clubs have director and officer insurance to cover anything that might happen. So I know we have that. Burlingame has D&O insurance. So it's something to keep in mind. Budgeting, part of what I handed out to you is our budget, and I've changed the numbers. So basically I just want you to look at some of the line items, and they may not all pertain to your club, but you can use it as a guide. And again, this is just a recommendation. That's something for you to look at. So we'll go over the budget a little bit later. Reporting, and your responsibilities are to report to the club and also secretary and to the district. So this is some of your responsibilities. And one thing that I wrote on my cover sheet, one of the most important things is that money collected in the admin cannot be commingled with money in the charities. That's very, very important. Now, treasury money can be donated to charities, but charity cannot go to admin. And there's a legal reason for that. Public money, which normally goes into the charities, cannot be used to fund club activities. Okay.
So we use QuickBooks, and we went out, found a charity organization that would give QuickBooks away for like $80, $85 a year, something like that. So that was a good thing, right, to save a whole lot of money on that. So we have our one set of books that includes the admin and the financial, but we keep all the money separate. We never let the money commingle.
Okay, and you have separate bank accounts?
Separate bank accounts for those, and they never commingle.
Right.
And but it's all in one set of books. Right.
That's okay.
Right.
Especially in QuickBooks, you can keep separate.
If I'm not mistaken, in QuickBooks and Quicken both give you the option of doing 2 separate companies within the same program.
Not QuickBooks Online.
Okay.
Not that I've found yet.
Okay.
Oh, you use the software that's on your computer. You don't
It's an online version.
We use the web-based QuickBooks, and that was our issue. Expense on QuickBooks was $300 or $400 a year to buy QuickBooks, and so we wanted the PC version, but we ended up with we ended up having to get the online version.
Okay, we use that too.
Yeah.
So okay, several different softwares you can use, and I'm getting my workout already. Sweating. So anyway, I've listed 2 categories on your front page, administrative and charity. These are the type of income items that you normally have coming into the two different treasuries. And so oftentimes one treasurer is for both. In our club, we have 2 different treasurers. So I'm incoming treasurer this year for our club, and I'm doing charities. And we have another treasurer who does admin. So separation of duties is always desirable, but oftentimes you don't have that choice. One other thing is you normally rotate your officers. So if you have a P.O. box, that kind of helps keep things in one place. Some clubs I know have the president's house or the secretary's house as the address of record. And then when you change over, then you have to change all that too. So that's just recommendation. You do whatever works for your club. Another thing is the signatories. We require, and it's recommended to have a dual signature, 2 signatures per check. And what we do in our club, and you can do it the way you feel most comfortable. We have our president, our vice president, and the treasurer as signatories. And the vice president's there because he or she will become president. And so instead of, it's a continuity, so that when the others fall off of the signatories, the vice president, who becomes president, will continue on. So that's one recommendation. Okay, any other questions on the bank and signatories?
I heard in other training this morning is the president, secretary, and treasurer.
Yes, that's customary, but if all those offices, yes, and that's fine. We do the first vice president just because I think at Wells Fargo, they require, they're very strict on the signatories, and even you have to be president to sign off. So the vice president's already on, and to become president, it's just continuous.
Line Rich, do you have any more handouts?
Yes, I do.
One?
There's some
I need 2.
up here.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, sir.
well,
No, no, this,
okay, I'm going
I got
to,
this one. Just that. Thank you, sir.
do this. Okay, let's talk about the budget. That's one of the first things you do to get into the new year. Now, I've submitted a sample of our budget, which is the admin proposed budget is on this side. And the charities budget is what you see in the color. Okay. Normally what you do is have your budget committee, which is composed of your officers and corporate treasurer. And you propose the budget for the upcoming year in May before we get to the July 1st. And you go over and propose, see what you're looking at is across the city, the numbers I just rounded up, but I want to give you an idea of what we do. And so budgets have to balance. Whatever income comes in has to end up being expended. Nonprofits have a budget that zeros. For-profits are different, but nonprofits are there because we're supposed to spend all the money that we bring in. And of course, most often, we don't spend all the money. And so it carries over into the next year. So while you're looking at this budget, we'll take a look at the charities budget first, which is the colorful one. So we have our line items, and again, your club may want to do this differently. This is just how we're doing it. So we have 2 columns. One is the actuals to date, and then you have the approved budget on the far side, and then you have your differences on a 3rd column. It doesn't show here, but that's how you keep track of how you're doing. So, any questions on budgeting? Okay. Any questions on any of the line items?
So this one right here that has both sides, this is the charity's budget.
This is the charity's budget, the one with the colors. No questions on charity? We can revisit it again. On the back side of that is our admin budget. And these line items are what we use to keep track of where all the expenses and income come from. It may match what you do. This is a copy of San Bruno's budget. It's similar, but of course they have different line items. So this is just a compare to what.
You populate it with things that are specific to your club, not
And-
just San Bruno.
Right. I have numbers on our Foster City budget to give you an idea of what kind of numbers go in. Okay, any questions about admin budget? Okay, we'll go through first the administrative treasury. What you're gonna be doing is collecting dues from your members, paying those dues up to international MD4 and your local convention. Under expenses, under the administrative column, I've listed the amounts that have been. Okay, these are the amounts. LCI used to be $48, it's now $50. The rest of them are the same, $18.
I think MD4 went up.
Before went up.
MD4 went up quite a bit, actually. I think it was
Yes,
31.
it used to be $18,
Yeah.
and now it's $31. 4C4 is the same, club dues, $8. And meals, we charge for meals, because we have dinner at a restaurant, so we have $18 per meal. Your club may be different, but this is similar to what you have.
Yeah, every club charges different dues depending on what they want. I mean,
Based on what they think that the meal costs, as well as maybe making $1 or $2 off of it. The website is 40 cents. Any questions about dues
LCI is $50 exam year,
per year?
and then
$50 for
MD4 is now
LCI.
31.
so MD4 is
MD4 went up to $31
31.
per member per year.
And I spoke to Denise recently, she gave me LCI, she said $50, so.
Yes, on your handout, I have 50.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that-
it is a dated
this is,
slide.
Yeah, this is previous prices.
So if we just change MD4 to 31, now this is the current, this is the
And
current.
everything else should be the same.
MD4 is the same, 31,
MD4 is now $31.
31, and 4C4 the same, 1440.
And 4C4 is still $14.40.
And that includes the convention and the website, so those are subheaded, right,
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about that?
I think I'm in Redwood City, and then I think our dues are pretty different from, I think we charging.
Well, I think the point is that is the basic, what you need to pay out to LCI, MD4, and 4C4. Now, if your club, every club decides what they're gonna charge on an annual basis. My club, $400 a year. That includes paying for part of people going to convention, pays for part of our restaurant, going to eat at dinner. Other clubs, there are clubs that charge more. I just spoke to a club today that charges $90 a year. They just cover pretty much the bare minimum. So it's up to you, your club, to decide how much you want to charge for dues on an annual basis.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Rich, what does, I'm sorry,
Clubs may charge you a little more because they want to replenish their treasury. I know sometimes, if, on the budget that we have for administration, we have a Calcutta, which is a football pool. And so this is strictly a administrative fundraiser. No public money is coming in, so we use that to replenish our treasury. Now, there are various ways to do it. You can have meals, you can have breakfasts, but again, if public money comes in, it has to stay on the charity side. Only membership money can go into the admin fund.
And Rich,
Mm-hmm.
that 1440, that's comprised of those three items below?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And there are, for associate family members, for example,
Mm-hmm.
we only need to pay, oh, sorry, those are the numbers, sorry, never mind.
Oh,
To the
right,
district and the-
right.
There are certain rules about certain ones don't apply, like the LCI membership for
Mm-hmm.
certain,
For certain classifications, right?
certain classifications, so it's way more complex than necessary.
It's, it can be very complex, and, we have, the classifications of membership, there's active, there's, we have leave of absence, that's called, I think that's, we have associate, lifetime
Affiliate.
members,
affiliate,
and each one of those, has something a little different.
there's many more
So,
classifications.
and then there was a time when our club didn't charge for meals, because the members did not wanna eat. We've changed that policy, where everyone pays the same. It's to encourage you to come to the club, whether you come or not. And there's some meetings that we all miss, but we're still paying for the meals. And so, yeah, that policy didn't work for our club. I don't know if your clubs have a similar type of, policy where some members don't wanna eat. But it didn't work for us. We had everybody pay active membership.
That's what we do.
Makes it a little bit easier. So, anyway, okay, this is what looks like, an international bill, and oftentimes it comes to the secretary and not the treasurer. So the secretary will pass it on to the treasurer for payment. But that will come in the mail from LCI, and that'll indicate how much is owed by the club to international.
Does the treasurer have an access to the portal? Do you have, treasurers, do you have an access to the portal?
Yes.
Then you
Yes.
can go to the statement, when you did, you click statement, you see if you're current or not.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Have you? Yeah,
Have you
I'm always checking that statement, because right now, I think maybe July 15, the statement will come out.
Last year, I got an email telling me that we owed money every month if there were new members or such.
Yes.
And we were able to go straight to the portal and pay directly from the portal, so it was very convenient,
Yes.
right out of the bank account.
If you get a
Oh,
portal, they
debit-
look at the
debit your
statement
bank account.
regularly.
Okay, and we're very electronic now.
Yes,
Everything
and not only is it the dues, but also any supplies you may have
Yes.
purchased through from
For the members.
international will show up on that bill.
Okay, so as far as the admin fund and the admin treasurer billing the members, we used to have paper invoices, but now everything's done online. So you may do it through Zelle, some of the other payment online processes, and we pay quarterly to make it easier on the admin instead of monthly. How do most of you do it? Do you bill your members monthly?
For dues?
For dues?
Annually.
Okay, that makes it even easier.
We do it every half year, and I'm billing everybody for the full year of payment, but letting them know they can pay half.
That's a good one.
Mhm.
And, again, some of the members are on fixed income.
Yes.
And so, the other thing is we encourage everyone to pay by Zelle, because then it just shoots
Mhm.
straight into the bank account and straight into QuickBooks from there. That's very convenient. And so that's worked out well in the past. As well as doing online, writing the checks from the bank is a is a good thing. It saves us having to put stamps on envelopes and put details in envelopes. That's always been a pain for paying things.
Yes,
I think it's-
but checks still come in
Yes.
from people who like to use
Oh,
checks.
and we absolutely accept checks from anyone, and we also have Square, so we can
Square?
take people's payments by
Credit card?
credit card.
Mm-hmm, okay, good.
So yeah, same thing, our bank account, we have a SAL account that goes directly to our bank. So
Mhm.
if there's a statement like this as treasurer, I can also pay online. Because when we have a statement like this, there's nothing to approve in here. This is billed by the international.
Mm-hmm,
I just have to show it to the president of the board, I'm going to pay this, that's it. Pay online. That's like, Jeff said, saves a lot of time.
it's much easier. We still get a lot of checks coming in,
Yes.
because that's just the style that, people like to pay by. And now you can, of course, you can actually take a picture of the check
Yes.
and have it go directly to the bank. And don't even have to go in. So, a number of ways to pay. The administrative treasurer is going to be paying for dues. During your meetings, you have tail twister, fines. You might have a admin fundraiser that goes into the administrative treasury. Raffle, most of you have raffles and raffle prizes. So all the raffle prizes are purchased through the admin treasury. And guest meals are also part of admin. So all of that is part of what the admin treasurer has to take advantage of and take care of. The charity side is all the money that comes from the public, comes into your treasury. And any expenses that are paid through the fundraisers or donor income comes in. Do many of you get donors that you donate to your club? Without a fundraiser, they just say, I want to give you $500 or so. Those are nice.
They are nice.
So then again, also, we have donors that have given a lot of money for we have one that's called STEM, female STEM. So it's just to be spent on girls going to college that want to become engineers, math majors, technology. So that becomes a restricted item in your charities budget. So part of that, and it shows on the budget for our club, we have it restricted for certain charities that we have to spend on. Site conservation is one of them. So any money that's earmarked for site conservation has to be spent on a site conservation organization. We have everything from blind veterans to Eye Foundation and such. But there are a number of things that you have to be aware of. So, okay, yes, administrative and the charities budget, you've seen how the dues have come in. Now, I'm gonna be talking about taxes. Okay, some of these other things, this is what the QuickBooks will look like. So I'm not sure, QuickBooks is a double entry system. And so you have to be versed in double entry accounting. And not everyone wants to use it that way. That's why Excel works very well. And then when you have a new treasurer, say you have a treasurer who's working with QuickBooks now, and then the new treasurer coming in doesn't want to work with QuickBooks. So you have to find a way to transition to something that the new treasurer will be comfortable with. Excel seems to be very common with people. You can transition easily. QuickBooks, I'm used to, but not everyone else is. So something to think about when you work through your treasury and see what software you can use. I think we had a Quicken, QuickBooks, Excel,
Don't work
or
by hand.
old school, you can do it by hand. I still have ledger paper that I can actually do it by hand.
They
this is
still
what
sell
QuickBooks
that
is.
at Office Depot.
Oh, they still have it.
Now, there's some people that are reluctant to change. And I remember we used to have, remember on a the old style, on a ledger card, and then you put all the debt, income, expense, and you just paid through like a Rolodex.
Yeah.
And I even used that from a former treasurer. So it was, well, we've come a long way since then. Okay, that's QuickBooks. This is a statement, but I don't think anyone uses billing statements anymore for members. It's all online.
We still send out ours that way.
You
just got one in the
send-
mail.
Yeah,
you
we-
still
we-
send
we
out
just got
member
ours.
statements 'cause they wanna have a piece of paper or something to look at. Okay, the reporting. Now, the reporting at the meetings, and most of you probably already used to it. I see that a lot of you have been treasurers before, or you've been around it. So, of course, you use the beginning balance from the last reporting period, any income and expenses coming in for this period, and then you have your ending balance. Pretty straightforward, and there'll be questions during the meeting, either from the board or from the general membership about what these expenses or maybe what this income is made up of.
We've struggled over the years with reporting.
Mm-hmm.
We've had 20-minute treasurer's reports going over announcing every penny that came out and every penny that went in. And, that didn't work for me as a member, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so we changed it to having the incoming balance, the exiting balance, a list of anything that was going to be, that was an encumbrance that we had to pay. And then we built a pie chart to show people. And again, nobody asks questions in the 20-minute thing. Nobody asks questions when they see the pie chart and it's 3-minute treasurer's report. So you have some flexibility, but we make sure to make all of the detailed accounting available and transparent to every board member and any member that asks to see it.
Yeah, no, that's good presentation. Basically, you're producing, the information so that everybody can look at and they can absorb in a much quicker way than just saying, all right, we spent this on this, spent this on this, this on this. So pie charts are good. We have, Excel spreadsheets that go out to our board, which will list all the expenses. Any questions can be asked of the treasurer. Okay, so any other questions about presentation on reports?
Just from myself, just a comment. I mean, it is extremely important that the treasurer shares reports with the board of directors, with the president, with the members. I mean, this has got to be, absolutely has to be open to everyone. It can't be kept secret, because I've heard of clubs that do it that way.
Transparency is very important. And it's caused a lot of problems with clubs in the past. And so the treasurer is under a certain amount of pressure to be able to disclose everything that's happened. And yet you don't want to bore everyone with every single detail. So do most of you give your reports and you hand out a paper along with your reports?
Yeah, sometimes you forward it through email or
Mhm.
there's also a group that's our mind.
That's sent it through the email.
Text and email.
And then, oftentimes, a member will come and they forgot to look at it or bring their printout, so you bring some extra copies.
And we
but
also
yeah.
print the bank statement from.
We don't, issue a bank statement per se.
And I mean, we go online and print the, like the total amount, the balance of, per the charity and the admin. So at least they know
That
from
can
the-
be done,
Yeah, at least they know what's,
and
Like
so
what
if
happened
they
to
want,
funds.
further transparency,
yeah,
you can
That's what we
actually say,
do.
this is the bank statement.
yeah, that's how we do it.
I'm not, I'm not misinterpreting for you.
Oh,
So, it's all the level of confidence you need when you give it to the board members. We don't do that.
Ah.
But that certainly will, kind of give the members a little more confidence in your presentation.
right.
Okay, any other questions about reporting or budgeting?
It's not a question, but as I give you now, our members trust us.
Mm-hmm.
They will let us report whatever, but when they suspect something is happening, you better be ready, because all the questions will be asked. See, if you've been a treasurer for a long time, you know, your members, if you're collecting, their dues, then, but if they hear something that doesn't going all right, remember, all your membership will be there for you to question everything. So, that's right, so be ready. Right now, I will be my second year, so I have a spreadsheet, of my membership dues, one, going to the third, when they pay, either they pay by check or by cell, because we only have 40 members, paying members. So, membership dues are always a question, sometimes they forget, I paid last year. No, you didn't, this is your history. So I have the date they paid, whether by cash, check, or by cell. Cell is easy because you can see it on the record when you go to the bank. But if they pay you cash, you
And
can
that's,
receipt. That's my
another
point.
thing, is when you get cash, especially at the meetings, oftentimes you're gonna be standing there and a number of people will give you cash. And then you have to make sure that you write down where it came from and who it's from and what it's for. Sometimes I remember just sitting and I'd get all this cash before, not so much anymore, things are more electronic. But you go, well, where did this come from and who? And then you have to go back and talk to the member, did you pay me? And you have to trust, yes, I paid you. So that's something to.
Rich, I mean, I learned to come in with at least 2 envelopes and a number of paper clips and Post-it notes. Because if someone handed me cash, I would write on the Post-it note and put it with the cash and the paper clip and put it into either because we have only the one treasurer for both accounts, either into the charities account or into the administration account. The thing that messed me up the most was when someone wrote a check for $160 and 40 of it is for the raffle and 50 of it is for some other charity thing. Oh, here's 110 for the charity fundraiser that we're having, but here's one for, so what happens when you've got that one check for both things? Okay, it's got to go into your dues club account first, because you can't put it into your charity account because you can't take money from the charity account to put into your club account. At least that's the way we do it. Rich, what do you think?
Yes. No,
I would rather take it from the
there's-
dues and put it into charity than take it out of charity to put it into dues.
Going off what Mario just said, it's even worse when that just pops up in Zelle in the account. So,
Oh, yes, it went into the wrong accounts.
again, we very much separate the foundation
Right.
and the admin in Zelle, in the accounts, when the money comes in the running the credit cards, we've separated those, so have cut down on the issues, but it still happens sometimes.
Yes, with Zelle, it's linked to a number or an email. And oftentimes it gets crossed, and then money just shows up in another account. And so, I mean, it happens. It happens that it'll go into the charities account. You can't help it, you just have to immediately transfer it to the admin account.
Make sure you make good notes on it.
And then you document it, of course. A lot of legal ramifications toward commingling money. I've never seen an audit of a nonprofit where they'll say, well, did you commingle some funds? First of all, the IRS doesn't have the manpower or staff to be able to look at everything. And they leave it a lot up to you. As a nonprofit, you don't pay taxes. And so the IRS acts as a business. If they spend time with you, they want to make it worth their while. So they're too busy looking at the for-profits and say, well, we can get maybe an assessment, whereas nonprofits are kind of left. But that's, I'm gonna talk a little more about tax.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm, just want to go over more.
Got a question down here.
Great.
We have an installations dinner coming up.
Mhm.
It's not really open up to the public. It's mostly for members and friends.
Mhm.
Should it be administrative or
Mhm.
charity?
We have it in our administrative.
Okay,
I mean, you're gonna have non-lions there. But it's basically a administrative function.
okay, sounds good.
We do have an exception in the San Bernardino Lions Club when we sponsor our student speaker contest, and we invite the student speakers to dinner,
Mhm.
their parents, some teachers. And so there, because it's a regular club meeting, we set aside the people that we're sponsoring, and that's kind of coming from that's a public thing versus what the line members are eating, which is from the club account.
So you're taking the student speaker money, separating it and putting it into student speaker and charities?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, well, I mean, we're not charging them, we're paying for them.
you're paying for them.
Yeah, so when we pay for those dinners, it comes out of the charity account as opposed to the club account. Because they're members of the public, we're providing a service.
Okay, I think it's one of those marginal things.
Yeah.
That you could probably make a case, either side. But, yeah, no, there are a number of marginal things. Yeah, Dave?
Larry, Rich, what are the pros and cons of having one treasurer doing the books for both admin and activities versus having two separate treasurers? In Foster City Lions, we have two separate treasurers, one for admin, one for activities.
Right.
In the club I'm in now, we have one treasurer doing both. What are the pros and cons of either one way or the other?
There's no real advantage. Having two separate treasurers expands your board, gets more members involved. Also, they can keep things more separate. One treasurer doing both may cause, maybe some eyebrows, saying, well, did you do this and did you do that? But separation of duties, if it could be fiscal, is always better optics and can be better record keeping. So I know a lot of clubs have one treasurer.
I'm for our foundation and admin. I'm the only treasurer.
Mm-hmm. And
But
you
we
keep
don't
it
have a lot
separate.
of activities like this.
Yes, you keep it separate, and you can even keep it, I mean, you definitely need to have two bank accounts,
Yes,
Definitely.
but you can have the record keeping in one system and keeping them separate.
And you mentioned it's better to zero out at the end of is it the end of the year or is it at the end of the term to balance out and zero out your charities account? Is it May 31st or is it December 31st we're talking about?
Well, most all of our clubs are on a June 30th year end.
Okay.
And so,
Sorry, June.
as a nonprofit, the legally, nonprofits are supposed to spend all the money they take in. Now, most all the clubs don't do that, because we don't spend as much on certain items, and it's left over. We have a buffer that we carry forward, and it just stays there, and it builds up if you're working under budget most of the time. Legally, you're supposed to spend it all. That's why when you see a budget, and this budget, it's always income $30,000, expenses $30,000. It doesn't always work that way.
What happens when it doesn't work that way?
You're supposed to spend it within the next year,
Okay.
and most of the time, maybe it doesn't. And then you'll have deficit years, where you spend more than what you made. So either there's gonna be an increase in members' dues, or somehow maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you had extra money, and you can carry forward and cover that. But when you see budgets, and when you do your budgets, they always zero out. They go income 30,000, expense 30,000. And then during your mid-year review, say in January or so, you can assess whether you're going under budget or over budget. And as we do, then we cut back on our expenses, because we have most of our activities during the first half, and maybe up to maybe February. And we pretty much know, well, we're not gonna make it, so we have to cut expenses. I'm sure all of you have had to do that too. Okay, any other questions about record keeping and reporting?
Yeah, I just want to share, when I'm sending a statement, I created a statement where I send it individually through email or text.
Mhm.
But this part, the summary is like the LCI, MD4, and the 4C4 are parked on one corner, that those are our total expenses for the year.
No, you have one line item. you said.
I have a summary, this is what we pay on a yearly basis.
Mhm.
Just to inform the membership that that's our contribution,
Yes, there's different ways to present it.
to share it with them that this is actually $95 for this year.
Mhm.
We owe.
No, whatever works for your membership. You know, you'll find out when they ask questions, how much we spent on this, you know, we over budget on this. So, if your members are happy with that reporting, then
Yeah.
continue with that.
Informing them where the money comes also then.
Mm-hmm. So, oh, yes.
Well, I'm looking at your chart of accounts here.
Mhm.
Do you have a separate, do you break apart a separate account for every project and every, you know, like
The
income
admin?
fundraiser? Do you have separate accounts for those, or do you just
You're
call
talking-
them fundraisers and
Oh, you're talking
categorize them?
charities. Charities budget. Admin?
Well, I mean, for, there are admin projects and there are
Mhm.
foundation projects, so, I mean, either one. Do you build separate accounts for each of those in your
No,
software?
not really.
or-
In San Bruno, we do.
You can.
Yeah, you can, and we used to have income for this one project, next project, then down below we had the outgo. We found that to be too confusing, you had to go look up and down, so now it just became, we anticipate this to be a fundraiser, and here's what we're gonna make net off of that one. And
the
then,
budget, right?
yeah, and then you have the other things on the outlay, dues, convention, trophies, whatever, we need a post office box, we need this, so if it's gonna be mainly expenditure, it's down at the bottom, it's gonna be mainly fundraiser or income, then it's up on top.
Okay, I see what you mean now. All right, let's take one item here. 4th of July revenue. So we have income from the 4th of July, and in our expenses, let's see,
Now, was that on the budget or which document are you looking at, Rich?
we're looking at the charities.
Okay, which piece of paper is that?
Oh, the colorful one,
Okay,
and
got it.
okay, we
Line 6.
Yeah.
yeah, the 4th of July revenue, let's see, we have that. And then, we do have, I don't see it on here right now, but we have an expense item for 4th of July. And so we may not have a separate, report just for it. The treasurer does give a report on how much we made on that particular fundraiser. But everything goes into this, for simplicity, everything goes into the, financial statement. And we say, okay, we made this much at 4th of July, we spent this much, and this will be our net. There's another column that you'll add here of differences, and that over and under budget, and that will tell you if you're within your budget or you didn't quite make budget. Any other questions on it? Okay, I'm gonna go into some tax right now. I know that's, I fielded a lot of questions about tax. So, basically, there are 4 agencies that, you have to deal with. I can't quite get it up here. All right, there are 4 agencies that you have to be concerned with. And again, my best recommendation is that you consult with a professional. If you're under $50,000 in revenue, which most clubs are, you can go online and do the online, very simple filing. So first we'll talk about, all right, the four agencies you need to be aware of are the IRS, the Franchise Tax Board, the Secretary of State, and the Attorney General. So the IRS requires a 990, a Form 990. The Franchise Tax Board requires a Form 199. The Attorney General will need a RRF1, which is basically an information return, 1 page. And the Secretary of State is every 2 years, depending on your incorporation. How many of your clubs are incorporated? Well, are you a corporation?
We are a corporation, yes.
And I know the bigger clubs are corporations.
That is corporation means just not 501c3?
No, the corporation is when you go and file with the Secretary of State
Yeah.
and incorporate your club. Like the district is a non-incorporated nonprofit. But our club is incorporated, both on charity side and on admin side. We have two separate returns that we have to file. And actually, you should be filing too if you have a charities. So each of these, yeah, Sam.
Do you have to pay 800 a year for the?
Not as a nonprofit.
No,
So what happens? What happens is if you don't file for 3 years, your exemption, if you have it, gets suspended. And then you have to pay the $800. And don't let your corporation get suspended. It's a lot of effort to get it back reactivated again. I've had to go through that several times. And that's the $800 as a corporation for the state. If you lose your exemption. So the Secretary of State requires, and that's a statement of information, an SI 100. That's every 2 years from the date of your incorporation. So again, the 4 agencies require each one of those. If you're under $50,000 in revenue, you just have to go to the website, irs.gov or ftb.ca.gov, and you can file these reports online. It's quite simple. All they ask for maybe is income and expenses, and it goes very, very quickly. Once you get above that, then you have to file either a 990EZ, or if you're even higher, a full 990, which is much more complicated. And if you get to that point, I suggest consulting with someone who does that.
To get to that point, congratulations.
If you get to that, congratulations on that too. Any tax questions? Sure.
Rich,
Oh.
this is with my business, but it
Mhm.
has to do with the 501c. It was a church that had bought an appliance from us, and it was $9,000 for it. And he had all of his paperwork that he gave us, so we didn't charge him tax, thinking we were okay with it. But we got audited. And the
Your
state
sales
came
tax.
back and said, no, a 501c,
Mhm.
you don't have to pay federal, but you do have to pay state. So we had to pay the sales tax and we recharged the church and sent it to them. But you have to be
Mhm.
careful, because sometimes 501c, you're not covered with the state, you know?
That's sales tax, yes. And there are certain food items that require sales tax being paid.
Mhm.
During our 4th of July or White Cane, we sell items that are not part of the mission. See, our nonprofits have a mission that gives us the nonprofit status. And like Burlingame, the hall is being rented out, and that's not part of the tax exempt mission. So there is income tax that has to be paid. And sometimes it's pretty big because the hall is very popular. Most of us don't have the advantage of having our own hall, so we don't have to worry about that. But anything that's not part of your nonprofit mission or status can be taxed, either income tax or sales tax. And then if you hire people, then you might have payroll, if that happens. Most of us are volunteers, but there's a chance that there could be EDD, which Employment Development Payroll, sales tax, income tax, franchise tax board. So those are something to be aware of when you get into areas that are outside of your nonprofit. And the nonprofit, excuse me, all of us are 501c4s. That's the Internal Revenue Code. That's the nonprofit. You're not tax deductible until you become a 501c3. And then donors, I'm giving you a check. You, as a 501c3, allow me to tax deduct that donation. Membership dues are not. Those are those are going to a 501c4. So those two are quite distinct. And in order to get the 501c3 status, there are some forms that need to be filed with the Franchise Tax Board and IRS.
Can I comment? San Bruno, when we went from a 501c4, we had local companies, foundations that were giving us money on an annual basis.
Mhm.
When we went to that 501c3, those donations went way up. I don't know how much is involved in getting, because I wasn't in charge of getting that 501c3, but it was worth it to us in the long run, because over the years, the donations from these people who were donating to us went way up because of the 501c3. Now they could deduct it. It was a deductible thing for them.
It is a tremendous incentive to donate. When you serve dinner at these fundraisers, and you may have seen it already, the letters that go out to the donors will have a tax deductible portion and a meal cost. So if I give your organization $100 to go to your dinner, I'm gonna get a letter back from Secretary or the Treasurer. It says, okay, your tax deductible portion is $50, and the meal, which is the benefit you're getting, is $50. Your tax deductible portion is $50. Now, oftentimes that gets blurred, and I'll deduct the whole $100 on my tax return, but legally that's not permissible. And that letter, especially with the bigger donors, may come from the Secretary or the Treasurer.
We have about 20 minutes left, 23 minutes left, Rich, so just
Okay,
just to
well,
give you
I think a lot of you are pretty aware of both administrative and treasuries, charity treasuries. How about the tax questions? I can answer some tax questions if you have.
The good thing with our club is we have like George Chen as an accountant, so if we have questions, and he's also our auditor, appointed auditor. So he's the one filing our taxes. We pay $25 for our club for this year, so we're done. It was last May. So that's an advantage. You might have an accountant in your club, maybe easy. You can call if you have any questions. So that's fortunate that we have like George Chen in our club.
Nice to have that in your club, definitely. Now, in terms of the annual audit, we used to do that. We haven't done that recently. And if you do have someone audit your club, it should be somebody from outside your club, and preferably somebody outside of Lions. So, again, the trouble with audits is that if you do a lot with cash, it is very difficult to do a complete audit, because cash just doesn't stick around. If there's gonna be some siphoning off of cash, the auditor's not going to see it. So in a way, you have to think carefully if you wanna have your annual audit. It depends on the scope and what result you wanna have. I know I've worked with our club. It's difficult because I'm in the club, but we all see things. And then when you demand an audit, of course, that tends to fall on you, the treasurer. Says, well, why do you need an audit? You don't trust me? And I said, well, no, it's not that we don't trust you. It's just that we just want to
good business
feel
practice.
comfortable.
Yeah.
So if you do have the audit, just realize the scope of the audit, it won't be as complete as you might think. During our 4th of July before, we used to man the parking lot and get $10 a car. We'd have 1,000 cars. We made a lot of money. And it was all cash. People come in, give you a $10 bill, they go in, they come out. And so it's the collectors that we had to say, well, do we have confidence in those people collecting all those $10 bills? And so the only audit that I would look at is say, okay, we had 1,000 spaces, $10 each, they were full. We should have $10,000. That's kind of the mental audit you go through. And if they come back and they give you $6,000, then you start to question, well, shouldn't it be a lot higher than that? So, again, you know, auditing requires some thought.
Can I add something to that? One time I was treasurer of the club and we had a fundraiser and someone hands me an envelope. Says there's $9,000 in this envelope, but we didn't count it together. Now I get that envelope home and there's $8,000 in cash in that envelope. And he's quite sure that it was 9. I open the thing up, there's only 8. So my advice to you, and they trusted me, I'm not taking the money, and I'm not putting $1,000 of my own money into it just to make it complete. But from that point on, if someone hands me cash, I always make sure to count it together with another person to make sure that we both agree how much money is in that envelope. Because you don't want, and sign off on it, that's right. Have people sign and say, that's how much is in the envelope. It was kind of funny too, because the guy who was running, the chair of the event, he said, whoa, it should have been 10,000. You know, and so his idea of what it should have been, 10, versus what the guy said was in the envelope, 9, versus what I brought home, which was 8. You can have different ideas, so, but at the very least, count what's in that envelope and make sure that you both agree on the money that is there. Because we didn't do it that time. It didn't cause me a big problem, they trust me, but it was an issue and I felt bad about it.
And maybe you wanna make sure it's not a husband and wife that's counting the.
Yeah, true.
But,
I got
no.
like a side
Yes.
story to that. So not related to the Lions per se, but an activity was ran when I was in charge of a Cub Scout activity. Sales were happening. We had a cash box. Sale got done. We tabulated a lot up. Cash box went to somebody's house. A year later, the cash box comes out for the sale again. Lo and behold, there's like $950 in there. So just make sure you're accounting for everything. Cash has a way of walking away, and sometimes it doesn't walk away, it stays where it is.
Someone forgot to take it out.
Someone forgot to take it out.
Oh, okay.
And we had one occasion during the event where expenses were paid out of the cash received. Now, that's a terrible audit trail. You don't want to bring cash in and pay the expenses out of it, because recording those transactions makes it impossible. You say, well, how much did we get in? Well, here's the net after expenses, but that's not how you want to report it to your board. You want to say, this is how much we made, this is what the expenses are. So that's the difficulty with cash. And if you, at all possible, credit cards, checks, or online payment is the best way to go. And keep the expenses separate from the income. And don't net those two numbers.
Rich, can I make another comment?
Mm-hmm.
As far as dues, you're gonna be getting 2 dues bills twice a year. One is gonna be from LCI in, I believe it's July, and then in January. They'll be billing you based on the numbers that you report. And you'll also be getting a due statement combined from MD4, the state, and our local 4C4. Those are charged together. 4C4 sends that out. Lion Denise, the cabinet secretary, will be sending that out. So, so there are gonna be 4 bills during the year. So if you receive one LCI and then you receive the other one, don't say, oh, I already paid the dues, because that's the LCI bill. You also have to pay MD4 and 4C4 dues. Those come billed separately.
And in addition, now if you bring on new members during the year, you'll get additional LCI bills.
Right.
So you might get multiple LCI invoices over the year.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the 2, you'll definitely get.
Yeah. And that's the admin.
So, yeah, the ones brought in mid-year, they're usually prorated.
Yeah, so, speaking of cash, when we receive cash, oftentimes, we can't like pinpoint exactly the person it come from, like, you know, people collect cash at the door, so then, when we're putting it in our Excel, we just put like total cash and then just, that's probably the best we can do, right? We can't say like cash from this person, cash.
Oh, no, it's hard to identify cash, and that's why cash is used by someone who doesn't want to be recognized. It's not traceable. So ideally, you take as little cash as possible,
Yeah, that's why you wanna post it, that's why you want envelopes, that's why you wanna get that paper clip to cash, post it, put it together so you know where you're getting it.
But like, to the extent, if we cannot pinpoint exactly where we got the cash, we just say total, write an entry for total
Mhm.
cash.
Best you,
Because you
best
don't
you
know.
can do, yeah.
We run into that twice a month. Every one of our meeting meals, we, you know, people toss in 20s and we've gotta, you know, we don't know where exactly that $20 bill came from. So it's just one big lump sum of cash to meeting meals is how we
Mhm.
account for
Mhm.
that,
That's admin.
for admin.
Yes.
Charity, it's different.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. If, what's the rule on charities? You have to report if a certain person gave more than a certain amount of money, is that right, or?
Well, that's
If
gonna be
somebody
thousands of
donated
dollars.
over.
$10,000, if you have to file on your tax return, 5,000, if you're filing a full form, not the easy form. You have to identify $5,000 donors to the IRS.
If you got
And
those.
there's also a big difference between a couple $100 unknown total versus $5,000 unknown. You're gonna know if someone gave you 5,000.
You'll remember.
You know the total.
You'll remember.
Yeah, you certainly wanna know.
Yeah.
See Breaking Bad.
And congratulations once again.
And congratulations. They probably go into the 501c3 and not the 4. But another thing we do at our meetings is we separate the money we get from raffles, from the bar, from fines, and from, what is it? We separate each category to report to the board. How much do we make for drinks? How much do we make off of raffles, introductions? Everybody puts $1 into this. We have introductions of $1. You know, I imagine most of you have introductions, could be $1, could be more. But our treasurer will keep track and say, okay, this is how much we made from introductions, this much from our raffle, this much from drinks from the bar. It's just how much detail your board wants to see.
To make our accounting a little simpler for meetings, we print out envelopes, like you said, keep a separate envelope for everything, that's a good piece of advice. You know how you've seen people report money, it's how many 5s, how many 10s, how many 20s, you know, those kinds. We print that on the envelope and have an envelope for the tail twister and a separate envelope for the person taking the meal money. And so then we can account for those, you know, separate, it's not one big pile of money, it's the 2 envelopes for the 2 separate things to make it fit in the books easier. And it's also easier for the person to, you know, count the money and organize it if they have the form already there on a piece of paper. So we found that takes a few minutes before the meeting to print those off, but it has helped quite a bit.
Yeah, whatever level of detail helps. And then that's what you do. And it could also be a marketing tool. Says, well, look, we got this. Maybe we could target this. But yeah, whatever level of detail that the board and the membership requires, that's what you do. Maybe a little more work, but as a good treasurer, that's part of your responsibility. So any other questions, or any other questions on tax, or about the 2 treasurers?
Yeah, so if there is a loss, then that presumes, well, so Redwood City is it's brand new, so that presumes like some people prepaid for certain things, so then we just
So you
like,
have some money,
what's that,
so that you have money.
yeah, so we just record the prepayment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right, the prepayment were our membership dues, I assume, you're talking about.
Yeah, well, for example, we had paid like a incorporation fee, corporation filing fee.
Mm-hmm.
And then we paid like, there's some other stuff that people prepaid for, like, gifts and banners or what, but those, like, we haven't made enough money yet to be able to reimburse people.
So you owe them,
Yeah, I guess
you owe them money.
owe people, yeah. I mean, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So as treasurer, you need to keep track of it. And actually, that's what we call a balance sheet item.
Yeah.
You have an accounts payable.
Right.
Do most of you do both a balance sheet and an income statement when you do your reporting?
Yes.
I mean, for the most part, your balance sheet's gonna be cash and payables and receivables, and then you have your fund.
That's my concern.
Okay,
So we only do,
We'll work on
we
it.
only
You do the income statement.
income statement by the month, and then we do a detailed income statement for the year so they can see every transaction.
mm-hmm,
And since we're emailing these and not printing them out, I mean, it's 20 pages long, right? So
with all the
you
detail,
don't wanna-
yes.
You don't wanna print out the detail at the end of the year.
No.
Okay, so some of us, there's some clubs like to see what called a balance sheet. And for us, we don't have inventory. We generally don't have fixed assets. It's mostly just cash. Whatever bills need to be paid, which are payables, whatever dues or any receivables from donors, and then at the bottom you have your fund balance. That's basically how much you have. So we do that at the end of the year. We don't do it normally, because it takes a little more work. But again, it depends on what your board requires. If they want you to show full financial statements, so to speak, that includes the balance sheet and the income statement. Okay, any further questions?
Excuse me, I
Yeah.
have a question about 501c form. How much, donation, before we can, give them a 501c receipt?
Oh, you can, yeah, there's no limit.
Anyway.
For a donor,
For the donor?
there's no limit. There might be some reporting requirements. But you can give 10,000. We had, someone donate 50,000.
Oh, that's.
And I think years ago, I remember there was a club, someone gave them $1 million.
Whoa.
Of course, it caused all kinds of problems in the club, as you can imagine. But, they had $1 million donation.
Then we have to report it to IRS.
And yes, it'll have to be reported on the 990, because, yeah, you're well over 200,000. So, yes, if, other than a $50,000 total income, if you go above that, I consult someone professionally. Otherwise, if it's less than that, you can go online and get this filed quite quickly.
Let us say it's not, 10,000, it's just only about 1,000 or 500.
Oh, that's okay.
It's still like, so that the person can deduct it in the IRS.
And you have a 501c3
Yeah.
foundation,
So we have to give a 501c,
a 3.
that's me too,
Uh,
with the 50,000.
yes, they donated to the 501c3. Admin fund, no. It's what's called a 4, 501c4, and it's not tax deductible. So, creating a 501c3, requires some filing, and, yeah, you wanna engage somebody who kinda knows how to do it. So, but it's very valuable, like Mario had mentioned, donations go way up when you have a 501c3, because they can deduct it.
Because if we do the fundraising and the people can, if, you know, in order for them to get something from what they donate, then we have to give them a 501c3.
Yes, you send them a letter, you give them the federal ID number, and then state that you're a 501c3 organization, so.
So only the number, the federal ID.
Yes, I'm sure you have that.
So when you apply for 501c3, C4, you have to apply for ID, for
Yes.
the number. Then the
Yes.
number, you can give it to the person who donated some.
Mm-hmm.
EIN, is that it? Yeah.
Or it's a federal EIN number.
EIN.
You'll have two, one for the admin and one for the charities.
For the admin is 501c4,
Mm-hmm.
and then for the charity.
For charities,
is 501c.
you have to apply for the 3 tax exempt status. It's not automatic.
There's a tax
And
exempt.
if you didn't get approved for being a 501c3, that's also a 501c4, which is not tax deductible.
The 501c3 is not taxable. Oh no, I mean,
It's tax
not
deductible.
deductible.
A 501c4, the admin treasury is not deductible.
Oh, the one,
Yeah. It's only the 501c3.
so if they get some donation, they have to file 199 or the 990.
You have to file a 990 and a 199 anyway. It's a matter of whether your total income is above 50,000. Then you have to disclose a lot of this.
But if it's below that,
If it's below, no, you don't.
But you still have to file, just to
You
file.
still have to file
Just
online.
Because you will lose
Every-
your,
You'll lose your exemption.
if you don't,
Oh, yeah.
within 3 years.
If
you
after
have to
3
file.
years,
uh-huh.
you don't file, you'll lose your exemption, and you don't wanna do that.
Okay.
Yearly do it, it's a simple form.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw the.
We've got time for maybe one more question here.
No, it's just finance here, well, the most difficult part as treasurer is when they have a dinner of 200 people. We can do the summary, but the details of that, how many paid, this and that, I have an attachment for that. I gave the report summary to the class, but I have the attachment to who paid and who doesn't pay on that event. That's the most difficult part of me, because you still have to reconcile. If they question that who paid and who doesn't pay, I have that paper. Can you imagine a 200 dinner is the most tedious at the end of the event for me.
Now, you have a big accounts receivable, and maybe your job as treasurer is to be a tax, or to be a bill collector.
Yeah.
You have to call them up and say, you owe me money.
All right, well, let's hear it for Lion Rich. Thank you, Lion Rich, for a terrific presentation. I assume I counted 14 names on here. I see 14 of you, so I think everyone signed in. We will have postings. We will be sending out links and things like that. I'm Mario Benavente, the Global Leadership Chair. If you have any questions, give me a call. If you're not finding the link, give me a call and let me know. But anyway, thank you, Lion Rich. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
I hope that helped. Let me give you my email address. If you have a specific question, you can just email me at, it's Rlee, R-L-E-E, CPA, at CS, like in Cat Stevens, .com.
R-E-A-R-L-E-Y.
It's R-L-E-E, CPA at CS.com.
Terrific. End of recording.
Hardly.